Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the Interreligious Council of Linn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Good morning. Welcome to Ethical Perspectives in the News. My name is Pete Welch, and I'm the moderator for this morning's program. Lately, we'd like to visit on the recent topic where we've seen the political commercials that we were deluged with now replaced with commercials about gambling and casino here in Cedar Rapids. And we now want to go ahead and cover that topic in this morning's program. First with us this morning is Mr. Scott Steins, who's with the Just Say No Casino Coalition. Good morning, Scott. Next with us is Marcia Rogers, who's the spokesperson for Vote Yes Linn County. And they are the advocacy group saying that the casino would be good for Cedar Rapids. Good morning, Marcia.
Good morning, thank you.
And also with us is Todd Dorman, who's with the Cedar Rapids Gazette, a columnist that we enjoy reading, and he enjoys dealing with these meaty issues. So,
Thanks. Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Anyway, Marcia and Scott, I'd like to start off the program and have each of you say why it is your coalition and group is advocating a position in this. Ladies first. Marcia, can you start us off?
Thank you, I'd be happy to. We are a group of local citizens led by a group of local investors in Linn County who came together, who felt that it was time to revisit the issue of having a casino in Linn County, recognizing that since 2003, we have really matured as a community. We've been through a lot. We're going through a revitalization phase. We're really looking at all the components of what makes our community a well-rounded community. And after much interest by a number of people, they came together and decided that maybe it was time to move forward and push for a locally funded, locally driven casino in Linn County.
Okay. Scott, and your side of that equation?
Sure. The Just Say No Coalition is a group of concerned citizens, small business owners, religious groups, as well as other groups that have come together basically to, I've been working with these groups since 1990 when we defeated the riverboat gambling, and again in 2003. We've got about a 15-year history of successfully opposing gambling in Linn County.
Is there a numbers to how many people are in your coalition or your group?
I work with about 6 dozen core volunteers. These are non-paid local citizens. And our belief is that a casino wasn't right in 1990, wasn't right in 2003, because it really doesn't have much to do with real economic development. And we talk most about jobs and taxes, but hopefully we'll address today's program that there's really a social cost and a cost to the community.
Okay. And Marcia, roughly the size of the group that's come together to form your coalition?
Well, it's almost too large to count. This is the group that helped us get 16,000 signatures on petitions in record time. So we have labor unions, volunteers, people who have just decided it's time to revisit this issue and bring it before voters.
And what was didn't you substantially exceed the minimum required number of signatures?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And what was that threshold?
The threshold was 11,872 signatures, and we were at 16,000.
Okay, and that's quite a ways past.
Yes.
Okay. I understand that there was a report out earlier this week about some polling that you did in the community for the Just Say No campaign?
Yes, in fact, it's pretty encouraging because it's within a statistical error of about 5%. So it really tells us that we're really at a dead heat. It came back that 49% were in favor, 47% were opposed, with an error ratio margin of 5%, which, and only 4% were undecided, which was what we knew going into this. A lot of people already made up their minds before the TV started running, but what's more encouraging is that it's still tight, a still very tight race. As you may recall, I think we defeated this casino initiative in 2003 by 4 to 6%. I don't know if you remember, Todd.
6%.
6%.
I wasn't around, but I've looked in the archives. Yeah.
So to be at this point, 3 weeks away, and be this tight, it's very encouraging.
Marcia, is your sense that it's that close in your group?
Actually, our sense is that there's a great deal of enthusiasm for this and that the momentum's in our court. And I have been involved in conducting polling. And so I didn't see the questions and I didn't really see the statistical samples and to know exactly how their poll was conducted. So just based on this conversation alone and the way our campaigns are working, I have to tell you that I think we're seeing great momentum.
Okay. One of the things I remember from 2003 was there was a West Side yes and an East Side no vote. Do we think it's an East-West issue now, or is it one more of morality or religion? Any of those? I mean, everybody knows the economy is an issue, and that knife cuts both ways, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to start answering. I'm sure we both have things to contribute. We did quite a bit of research before we embarked on this effort. And in looking at some pretty sound data, the idea that we could create the numbers of jobs that we've been discussing, 600 jobs in our community, is significant. And people are really, really anxious to see those jobs come to Cedar Rapids. They're very good jobs. They're well-paid positions with good benefits. And those jobs don't come along in this quantity every day.
Scott?
You know, I think this issue zigzags across the community, across the county. It's not red or blue. It's not young or old. It really comes down to individuals and their perspective on the issue. To that end, so it's not along political parties or anything like that. What we will say is that we see that a lot more people are recognizing the social costs that come with casino gambling. And that's one of the reasons we really defeated this in the late 1990s. It didn't even come to a vote. In 2003, we defeated it by 6%, because when you add it all up, both sides of the ledger, the jobs versus the costs, it doesn't add up. In fact, some studies say it's like a 3-to-1 ratio, that you might have a $63 benefit from the jobs, but there's $193 in social costs. So it's kind of a 3-to-1 on cost to benefit.
If you're going back to 2003 or even back to 1990 or any of the others, is Cedar Rapids really the same community now that it was then? I mean, we've had some pretty intervening events like, 2008 flood and a lot of other things. Is what was appropriate then always the test for what it should be now?
You know, that's interesting you should bring that up, because a lot's changed. When we were initially opposed to the riverboat, there weren't 8 casinos surrounding us within 90 minutes, okay? In 2003, I don't think there were that many. And what we've really seen is proliferation of casino gambling. But mostly you'll notice that they're on the river, because they draw a lot of their gamblers from outside their market. And that's one of the keys to an urban casino. You need to draw most of your gamblers from outside your market. That way the market with the casino benefits, and the people that come, they leave and they take their problems and the costs associated with that back from whence they came.
Okay, well, there's not a lot of traveling done on our rivers of late. Is that why, Marcia, the interstate location is a key?
Well, I'd like to go back and just, if I could, just to address that question before, as I drop my microphone here, excuse me. I find it interesting that in Iowa, we do gambling very well. And when I say that, we have a legislature that has gone to great lengths to protect communities that have gaming. And so to that end, we have covered a lot of bases in our state to make sure that a lot of protections are in place. So when you say, is this a different time in this community and are we ready to revisit this, I think that in the intervening years since 2003, much has changed with the legislature in terms of making sure that casinos give back to their communities through the nonprofit organization. And then to go further to your question about I'm kind of jumping here, but to go back to your question about the interstate or about location, I think that that would definitely be of interest to have it in a high visibility area. Certainly not on a river, but not on a boat, but within easy access to an interstate.
Well, Todd?
Well, just to jump in, we were talking about 2003. I've spent some time lately looking back at that, reading those stories. I think probably just, and I don't have a dog in the race of chips in the poker game. I don't know.
Okay.
But one thing that I've noticed that was a lot different is last time there was a lot of debate or a lot of emphasis on the fact that virtually none of the sort of elected public officials in the community endorsed the casino proposal in 2003. There was a lot of, I think the mayor, Paul Pate, at that time appointed a commission to sort of study the issue. I'm sure he wanted to have a study, but it also served the purpose of not having to make, when politicians appoint someone to study something, it's part of it is that they want to study and part of it is that they don't want to make a decision on that issue at that point.
They want to sit on the fence about the issue.
Right, yeah, they want some time. But, I mean, that would be the difference this time is you had sort of quick endorsements of this investor group by the County Board of Supervisors and the City Council and the mayor and folks like that. So that would be one difference. Another difference I noticed, and you can correct me if this is since you were there, but another difference, there seems to be as much sort of unknown facts about this casino proposal, such as the location and some of those things that have been talked about in the debate. It seemed like there were a lot more unknowns about that particular proposal. It was a little bit less formed even than this one. So that's one of the reasons why I think it had trouble.
Is it possible that the city of Cedar Rapids, now being in the business of owning the major downtown hotel, might have
Sure.
had some skin in the game for the city?
I mean, if I think by the end or at some point we're going to know maybe some sort of possible sites. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that were in the cards. If you had a location near the downtown area, at least, where the convention center and hotel could either be within walking distance or within a short shuttle ride. I mean, that's in other communities. Casinos tend to be somewhere near places you can sleep after you've gotten, tired yourself out at the blackjack tables. Or
Marcia?
Marilee Fowler, the director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in Cedar Rapids, was quick to endorse this project along with her board because she said that with the convention center and with all the enhancements that have taken place in our greater metropolitan area, this puts our community in a completely different echelon for attracting conventions to our area. And so the economic growth that can come from that and just the economic offshoot of being able to recruit conventions here, maybe not because they'll go to a casino, but because there just is a casino, it puts us in a completely different ballgame. And that was interesting to hear.
One thing that came up from, I've done these shows for a number of years, and the one fascinating fact that came up was in the shows after the 2008 flood is we probably have the safest downtown to eat in because all the kitchens in the downtown area have been rebuilt and replaced. So safest eating would be one factor. So Scott, go ahead.
Back to your comment about proliferation of gambling. Iowa's 30th in population, and we're 8th in per capita gambling. So we're doing rather well on gambling if there's a way to do gambling well. What I'm saying is that this market is quite saturated. There's a reason those casinos are on the river adjacent to another state or 3, Dubuque, for example. And what we really have got here is we're really reached saturation. So we're not talking about attracting people to a destination casino. We're talking about most of the gamblers being local. And what that ends up doing is with most of your gamblers coming from the local community, it's convenience gambling. Most people travel less than 35 miles. That's what convenience gambling is. What happens is we have a transfer of money from the casino customers to the owners. In this case, a private group of investors. So we don't see a lot of new money coming into the county. What we really have is a transfer of money. So it's not economic development. On top of that, we know that 1% to 3% will become problem gamblers. And I hope we're going to address the social costs today. Because 1% to 3% seems rather cold. But to put it in perspective, 89% of Iowans gamble in some way, shape, or form. Excuse me.
Sometimes we do that when we get on our highways.
Yeah, absolutely, or when they go out to eat at the wrong place. But if you look at that, there's about 2.6 million gamblers in Iowa of one form or another. And if 3% get in trouble, become problem gamblers, we're talking about 76,000 Iowans, people, neighbors, friends, coworkers. And it works out to about 4,400 problem gamblers per casino, if you divide by the 18 casinos. So we're talking about 3,000 to 4,000 problem gamblers in Linn County. And I know a lot of people say, well, people should be responsible and it's their own fault if they get in trouble, but the problem is problem gamblers impact others, their family, their friends, their employers. And there is a cost associated with bankruptcy, embezzlement, divorce. And as you know, gambling is a very solitary, at least slot machines, and that's the most highly addictive type of gambling, is a slot machine.
Okay, well, if you're arguing addictions, then I could say, for argument's sake, well, let's ban all smoking, let's ban all liquor consumption, because addictive behaviors are going to happen in different things, and we've shown that we can live with those.
Absolutely, but if you know that 3,000 to 4,000 people in your own community are going to become victims, these people are already problem pathological gamblers. They just haven't been discovered.
Actually, I'd like to respectfully disagree. In Iowa, we have seen a decline in gaming problems. It's well documented. We all came tonight with our stacks of studies, and there are some studies that have been conducted, and I would encourage people to go to the Iowa Gaming Association website. They have tremendous information that represents bodies of research done on this, and really there has been a significant decline from well over 2.2% to 1.4%. And so
let me just say this, one problem gambler is one too many. You know, we can argue that the percentage has gone down, but I just don't think that's a valid argument. Building a business on the losses of others, building a business that destroys families, that really attacks our, what is economic development?
Actually, I would like to say that we really aren't destroying families. What we're doing is
Problem
building
gamblers do.
Problem gamblers, and
That's right.
certainly we all have respect and empathy and concern for that. I believe that Iowa is the only state with gaming that really goes to the extremes to provide services, and so I don't think anyone takes that lightly. I think you and I would sit on the same side of that. I think that's
I hope so.
always
I
a
think so.
concern. But what we're talking about here is building a venue that will provide live entertainment and something new and different that complements what we have going on in our community, that doesn't necessarily conflict. And what we want to try to do is keep the money in Linn County. These same people gamble in other venues around the area, and we're losing a great deal of money to outside areas that we'd like to keep here.
I'm not sure what money we're keeping here. I want to understand that. I do know that the study that was done said that if the private casino had $80 million in revenue, that approximately $18 million would come from the regional casinos. So my question would be, where's the other $62 million come from? 62 out of 80 million, and I think the answer is it'll come out of local gamblers. So, and I understand what you're saying, no one wants problem gambling. But the whole point is convenience gambling within 35 miles. It's a lot easier when it's off on the way home or way to work, you can stop and gamble. Or, honey, I'm going to Hy-Vee for some milk, and I go gamble. It's a different animal when you place that casino right next to the interstate. And it's not a destination casino. And so if the argument's economic development, it's not a valid argument because there's no new money coming into the community.
Well, would you argue that there hasn't been, through the gaming and the lottery and the others, that there's been some tremendous investment in Iowa infrastructure?
Yes,
Oh,
I served
absolutely.
on the State Economic Development Board for 11
Yes.
years. I would tell you that absolutely we have benefited as a state tremendously through the gaming revenues that we've been able to receive. And I believe that that it's not just looking at the dollars and cents, you're also looking at the other components of economic development, which is quality of life, attractions, tourism, and economic opportunities in work situations that help draw in other employers to an area as well. So it's a full package that you have to look at for economic development.
Todd?
I mean, this is, what you're hearing is just sort of what the story of gambling in Iowa is. There's plenty of ammunition for everyone. I mean, that's, there are social problems. He's right. I mean, there are addicted gamblers. There have been problems. I mean, I've grown up in this state with gambling. I was a page in the Iowa House when the riverboat law passed. So I remember all of the warnings then, and a lot of the same warnings are made now that were made then, although I think some people predicted that it would expand beyond excursion boats and $250 loss limits, and they were right.
Yeah,
They were definitely right. But on the other side, as you mentioned, I mean, you had Vision Iowa, you had iJobs, you had, you know, my hometown has a aquatic center because of gambling. I mean, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is, it has been economically advantageous for some places. And I mean, some of the places that got gambling in the beginning, that got casinos, I mean, these were dying river towns that needed something.
I don't think anybody would argue with how good an example Dubuque has done.
Sure.
I mean, I guess the lucky thing here is for us making this decision is that this isn't a Hail Mary. This isn't a town on the verge of collapse, grasping for a life raft. I mean, this is something this is a question of we get to make this decision in a place where the economy is actually doing fairly well. There's manufacturing jobs being added. Our unemployment rate in Iowa is low compared to the rest of the country. I mean, if you're out of work, it doesn't seem low.
Yeah.
But so that's the difficulty that people like me that are still in that small group of undecided. It's like, well, we understand the detriments and we understand the benefits, and how does it fit in this county? Is this something that we need here? Is this something that will benefit the community more than it will impact it?
Yeah.
And Marcia, I'm hearing you say that, if we can do this in a controlled, methodical method, it would be good for the city and good for the community.
Yes, and speaking of good for the community, one of the things that the legislature did say was that you had to the casinos would have to give back through the nonprofit a minimum of 3% back to the communities, back to the county, for what the nonprofit organization would deem appropriate, whether it was community services or community enhancements or human services projects. And so we now currently, as a non-casino county, we share in this leftover pot of funds that the other 84 counties beside us get to take part in, and it's population distributed by population. So we've received since about 2004 roughly 120,000 a year. Now with a casino, we will gain that 3% back into our county, and within the first year, we will have somewhere between $2.4 to $4 million right away for these community services and nonprofits. I think there's a great deal we can do to help people further in our county.
Now, that nonprofit and that organization, that's going to be totally visible, isn't it? Where the money,
Very much so.
What amount comes in and
Correct.
where it goes.
Yes, very much so. That's a nonprofit organization established called the Linn County Gaming Association, a 5-member board. They will be responsible for holding the license for the casino for a 10-year period, and also responsible for the distribution of this 3%.
The original framers of the Iowa riverboat law were very clever. They specified that a minimum 3% had to go to nonprofit. And as you know, we all work in this community. There's hundreds of nonprofits, Boy Scouts, other nonprofit organizations that are starving for money. So what happens is this nonprofit gives $1,000 to 120 different organizations, which touch a lot of people in the community, a little bit for everybody. And what happens is they become advocates. So whenever there's an issue of coming back up for a reaffirmation of a casino license, first of all, these people have already spent money to build their casinos. They wouldn't walk away from it. Secondly, it's very clever. We've got 200 different organizations that touch tens of thousands of people. The casino is the benefactor. I might add that, talk about transparency, this board we're talking about, this nonprofit, was appointed by the casino investors. And then they negotiated the agreement with these people. All right, and it's a minimum 3% for the first 10 years, and then there's supposed to be a sliding scale where it could go higher, okay? But there's a caveat in that agreement that says if they have any third-party debt for land or parking, it stays at 3% for the first 20 years. So, transparency is important. We didn't see that document. It was signed in October. We didn't see it till a couple weeks ago. So I hope there's transparency in this, but it's really clever how we've got the nonprofit in there to build advocacy for the casino over time.
And actually, I'm sorry, Ted.
I wish the nonprofit had driven a better bargain. I do. But, over the course of 10 years, $24 million isn't nothing for nonprofits. And a lot of nonprofits, I was thinking about, I went to a county supervisors meeting and they're handing out money from the Whitwer Trust. And these are fairly small grants to organizations to use for things. So, on the one hand, the 3% and the locked in, the opportunities for increasing that seem too limited to me. But again, if you look at the bigger picture, the 10-year or the 5-year, that's
If you go to the Iowa
Absolutely.
Gaming
That's a lot of
Association.
money.
It is a lot of money. But you know, where's that money come from?
But if you go to
That's
the
the
Iowa
key question.
Association,
Okay, Scott,
if
let
you-
Marcia get a word
If you
in.
go to the Iowa Gaming Association website,
Not exactly a very objective website. The
but
Iowa
it
Gaming
helps
Association.
provide but it provides some insight and information about what the counties that have casinos supply to their counties, and it's important to go and take a look at, and certainly by even contacting our organization, the Vote Yes Linn County, we have the information that says what the other casino counties are providing, and it isn't small contributions to small organizations or across. The Kelowna Fire Station was built by Riverside Casino. Many large and worthwhile projects have been invested in the communities to make them better places to live, work, and play.
No doubt about that, but the question is, where did that money come from? And the money is going to come from local losers at the casino. So, you know, here's something. You can only spend $1 once. So if I spend $1 at a casino, that's $1 that cannot be spent anywhere else in the county. And I would argue that $1 spent anywhere else in the county, not with a casino, is probably better for economic development than $1 spent at the casino.
Okay. Todd, what's your sense from what you're hearing from the public? And it seems to me that this issue is going to be even bigger than it was 10 years ago.
It's,
And-
yeah,
and
I mean, the
more.
absentee ballot flow already is heavy. I mean, I think we could see, you know, we could see turnout upwards of 40%. I mean, I think it'll be it's a big deal,
Okay.
for lack of a better, more artful term.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left. If you'd like to wrap up with a final comment, start off, Todd.
Well, I mean, I know there aren't very many undecided voters, but I think it is tough. I mean, it's tough to sort through all of this. There's on the one, I mean, the opponents, on the one hand, there's, talking about all of the money is going to come from local gamblers, but then another part of the opposition says that it's going to all come from, existing casinos, and I don't know which of those is right. Either the numbers are low or high. I don't know. I still want to know where it's going to be located. I still want to know campaign finance information from both sides. I'd like to see who's financing these campaigns. They're not releasing that early. They're going to wait until the
Last
state
moment.
deadline, 4:30 p.m., February 28th.
Marcia,
So, yeah.
final comment?
Well, we know who's financing our campaign. We know that it's the investors who have come forward to say that they are funding this project. The Cedar Rapids Development Group is financing the campaign. We don't know who's funding the Just Say No Casino Group, and
You've
that will be
released
interesting.
your names, Marcia. Are you going to release the amounts they're investing?
That will be available on the
Okay.
date of the report.
Yeah.
Scott?
I can tell you, the real question is whether a casino is right for Linn County. We're not in desperation, as Todd said, of unemployment. We aren't in desperate economic straits. We need to look for real things that create real jobs, that create products and services.
Okay, good enough. Thank you for joining me this morning. And on behalf of the Interreligious Council for Linn County and Cedar Rapids, Iowa, go out and make our community a better place this morning. Thank you.